Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and today I am back with day number 15 of 30 Days of Sketches with Chrissy's Beautiful Life. Today's sketch comes from Helen Ding, and I will post her social media below. This is the sketch that we're going to be using, and I do change it up quite a bit because that is a lot of photos and they are really small. I do pull out my Echo Park Magical Adventure 2 to document a parade at Disney. I first started out with this blue paper here that has the white sparkles on it. When I started to pull out the papers to document these photos, I really wanted to showcase the blue and the yellow. This particular parade is the 50th anniversary parade, so all of the characters are dressed in their iridescent colors, and it has a blue, pink, teal kind of vibe to it. So I thought that this blue paper was really close to the color of their outfits. And then I love this yellow buffalo print. And so those two pieces are the main pieces on my layout. Both pieces are 11.5 inches wide. So there is a 1/4 inch border around 3 sides. The yellow paper on the far left-hand side is 8.5 inches. The yellow paper on the right side is 2.25 inches, and then the blue paper on the right-hand side is 9 inches. And it took me quite a few tries to get it cut properly, but I definitely love the way that this background comes out. I do decide to gut my white cardstock just to make sure that I could save some of that paper, since I truly am covering up a majority of the background and I just have that 1/4 inch border around 3 sides. Once I get the white paper gutted, then I start to adhere my background paper to the layout. As I'm doing that, I do want to encourage you guys to check out the playlist below so that you can see how everyone else interpreted this sketch. I personally can't wait to see it because this is one that has a ton of photos. The photos on the sketch are pretty small. They're about a 1.5 by 2 inch photo, and I did use a couple of those, but I also wanted to make mine a little bit larger. I struggled getting this paper down, especially when I gut it. I keep telling myself that I'm not going to do this, especially when I have these large mats that I need to put on my layout, but I just can't get away from saving that white cardstock. You guys know that I always put washi tape on the back. This is to help make sure that nothing gets snagged coming in and out of the page protectors when I put them in the albums. So I finally have my background done, and then I did have this white paper that has a bunch of different colorful stars on it, and I knew I wanted to add that as well. But I wanted to look through the paper pad that I have just to see if there was anything else. I'm really looking for something to separate the blue and the yellow, something that's going to be in a 1/4 inch strip. Echo Park and Simple Stories have a very different Disney vibe. Echo Park's paper is very bright and it has a white base to it. Simple Stories paper has more of a cream base to it, and sometimes I like to mix and match them, and I don't have a problem mixing white with cream. But for this particular one, I really wanted to have that bright color because these photos are going to be really bright as well. I decided to pull out one of the photos so that I could see what colors I wanted to work into the layout. Right now, I just had the blue and the yellow, and I wasn't sure if I was going to bring in the red. The red is such a predominant color in Disney, but for these particular photos, they weren't, and I was afraid that it was going to clash. But I did end up finding this plaid paper that when I cut it down to a 1/4 inch strip, the red wasn't overpowering and I felt like it would be okay. So I cut down 2 1/4 inch strips to mat on my layout, and it's going to be on either side of the yellow paper. It gives that yellow paper a frame on either side. And you know that I had to pull out my T-square ruler to make sure that those pieces were down straight. I then brought in that white paper with the stars on it to follow along with the sketch. On the sketch, there was a piece that was to the left, but I thought that I would trim down my photos so that I could make sure that that white piece was cut the same size as my photos are going to be. I'm looking through the photos, trying to remember what order that I had them in. I wanted to make sure that the photos were grouped together by the parade float. So in the upper left-hand corner, I have pictures of Minnie's float, and on Minnie's float is Minnie, Goofy, and Pluto. Right before the float was the flag dancers. The mini float also goes over into the right hand side of the layout, and then I have single photos of Minnie, Goofy, and Pluto. Of course, I had to put the main squeeze, Mr. Mickey Mouse, in a 4x4. I wanted that photo to be a lot larger than the others because, you know, he is the star of the show. So that is going to be on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, I have more flag dancers as well as Mickey's float to include Mickey, Donald, and Chip and Dale. Daisy is supposed to be on the float with Donald in the back, but for whatever reason, she could not make the float that day. So after I got all of the photos cut out and arranged how I wanted them on the layout, then I measured out the white paper with the stars so that I could cut it out and it would all lay in that grid style like the sketch calls for. At first, I was thinking that I wasn't going to cut these 4 photos apart, but then since I had to cut the photos apart on the right-hand side, since I had 6 of them, I thought it just would look weird if I didn't separate them and there wasn't a gap between them. So I go ahead and cut out those photos and then lay them back down. Then I'm starting to look through the papers again, and I'm trying to find something that would go in that area next to Mickey. I first thought about using one of the 3x4 cards in the paper collection, but it didn't look right and the space was too narrow. So then I thought, well, maybe I could pull out the 2x2 squares, and I did find this Mouse & Co., which I thought worked perfectly. It just wasn't giving the vibe that I wanted. I also found this Viewfinder 3x4 card that I thought might work because I could tuck it in behind Mickey's photo, but I didn't like the way that that looked. I like this white card with the stars, but in the end, I decided that I would just work on something else until I figure out what I wanted to do. I like to do that when I'm struggling with something, working on something else that's kind of mindless, like laying down photos and making sure that they are straight. In the back of my brain, it's still going with things that I need to work on and trying to figure out an idea that will work. So sometimes as I'm doing this mindless activity of laying down the photos, it gives my brain an opportunity to remember some supplies that I had or maybe an idea that I wanted to use. This wasn't particularly the case for this layout, but it has worked for me in the past. I wanted to thank Helen for this sketch. I think that it would not be something that I would have normally chosen, and I think that it's actually kind of a perfect layout for parade photos since you tend to have a ton of pictures from the parade. I also decided to pull out this 4x4 card, and it says, "Leave a little sparkle wherever you go." And I thought that saying was perfect for this particular parade since they were all in that iridescent color outfits. I do decide to put that 4x4 card up on fun foam and then use some liquid adhesive to adhere it down. That means that I do have to put my stamping block on top of it. And even though the stamping block was on top of it, the paper underneath it bowed a little bit because I put too much liquid adhesive. Then I start to work on the left-hand side of the layout. I pull out my T-square ruler so that I can make sure that everything is straight with that grid line, and it was not easy. I think I say this every time I do grids in my layouts. I love the way that they look, but man, are they difficult. After I got the 4 photos at the top down, I decided to add that white paper with the stars. That way it gave me the exact space that I needed for the Mickey photo. I finally decided that I would just use a scrap piece of paper from that white paper with the stars and then maybe add a sticker to it later. And then I started looking through my stickers. I found this one sticker that says, "You're never too old to wish upon a star," which I love that saying. So I added that, but then was like, I don't know. I found this tag here that I really liked, but it just didn't look good next to the photo. So I decided that I'm going to commit to this white paper with the stars. So I do adhere it down. And then I'm also going to commit to the "You're never too old to wish upon a star" sticker. And then I found a puffy sticker that had the castle on it. And so I did need to move up the sticker a little bit to make sure that the castle fit on there properly. And I know that there's a castle on that sticker as well, but you can never have too many castles in your life. I then pulled out my silhouette so that I could create my title. I decided to do a 2-drop shadow. What that means is that I cut out the title and then I shadow it once, and then I shadow the shadow to give me this look. And I haven't used it in a while, but it is one of my favorite ways to do titles. Once I lift up the excess from the red, which is going to be my background, as well as the yellow, I leave it right there on the mat and start to build my title up. I'm going to finish it off with a white title. I think that color combination is pretty awesome. So it does make the title as one solid piece because that red background is all connected. Just like the sketch calls for, I do turn the title on the side and it fits into that white space with the stars perfectly. I pulled out my embellishment pieces and I found this one tag that says the whole gang. I also found this yellow tag that says worth the wait. And then I pulled out an adhesive brad, and on that piece it had a little camera, so I added that to the cluster on the far right hand side. I knew that I wanted to commit to the whole gang, so I add some adhesive to that and add that right below Mickey. And then I also, looking through the adhesive brads, trying to find something that would work in that cluster, but I didn't find anything that I was really liking. I really wanted to make this banner piece work from the chipboards, but it didn't work. So I pulled out this chipboard viewfinder and I cut it in half and added it behind the 4x4 card on the right. I tried several different pieces, but I did end up landing with this little circle that says the word dream on it, as well as this little ticket that says heart this. And then behind the camera, since I did have some red in each one of the other clusters, I pulled out this small square sticker and tucked it behind the photo, as well as that yellow tag that says worth the wait. And then I added the camera on top of it. So I just have a little bit of red polka dot peeking out. I continue looking through the sticker book, seeing if there's anything else that I can find that I like. And I do end up finding a little red tab that has a white star on it, as well as a yellow tab that has a heart on it. And then I found a blue circle with a red heart, and I added that over to the left where it says the whole gang, as well as a little red tag so that I could complete that cluster of 3 having those tags in each one of them. And that tag says Mouse Love. I also found a Mickey head that I could add right next to it. And then I found a little mini bow that I tucked behind it. I used my liquid adhesive to add adhesive to the back of my title. And then I start to work on building up that cluster as well. I tried out several different pieces to include some sunglasses, as well as some balloons, but I ultimately end up with a Mickey glove. And then right next to it, I have a word phrase that says magical memories. And then I also added a small tag to match the other ones. It's a brown tag that has a red heart on it. I did my journaling in a batch journaling, and so I do have it for you guys to see for this particular layout. I decided that I would just trim down the journaling pieces and then add it with my foam adhesive from Scrapbook.com. This is the 2mm foam adhesive. My journaling says, Mickey's celebration features Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, the host for the world's most magical celebration, as well as their friend Donald Duck, Daisy Duck, Goofy, Pluto, Chip, and Dale. To celebrate Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary, they are all decked out in their iridescent outfits. So I added those to the far right-hand side underneath the photo of Chip and Dale. And then I pulled out some enamel dots in black, blue, and red. And I added them to the clusters, but some of them didn't work. I wanted to add a little bit more. Like I didn't want a blue enamel dot on the blue paper. So I pulled out my white color box and I found some sparkly white enamel dots and added that to each one of the clusters that I felt like the color would match too well. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I hope you check out the playlist listed below so that you can see everyone else's take on this particular sketch. And come back tomorrow for another video. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.